Are you waiting to build something big? That's the biggest mistake most people make. We refused to wait, we're in our 20s, and we built a home improvement company past $10 million. Not because we knew everything, but because we were desperate enough to figure it out along the way. If you don't want to waste decades playing it safe, and if you're ready to build success earlier and live stories worth telling and stay ahead of the curve, subscribe now. Let's get into the episode.
Today's guest is a powerhouse in the concrete world, the vice president and general manager of Premier Concrete Admixtures, and the man whose products give AE landscape borders its edge. He's driven by family, sharpened by the hunt, and powered by the belief that the greater adversity, the greater the opportunity. Fresh off 5 record-breaking months, he's here to talk grit, growth, and the mindset that turns responsibility into fuel. Welcome, Chris Whitler.
Thanks, Parker.
Shall we, gentlemen?
We shall.
Oh, yeah. That was pretty in sync right there.
That was good.
So, Chris, inherited success or a heavy burden building a future beyond the family business.
Yes, sir.
How was it inheriting the business?
Process is still going on. You know, I got my promotion to VP about 6 months ago, I think. It's been good. You know, it's kind of just life. It's been life ever since I was 9. Come January, it'll be 19 years we've been in business. You know, not without its trials and tribulations. Probably the biggest thing, you know, is my age. You know, just turned 28. Most of the guys in the concrete industry are in their 50s. You know, so you gotta. That's a pretty big roadblock as far as building respect and whatnot. Yeah. I did that internally with our company because I've done every shit job in that place. You know, started at the very bottom, sweeping floors, cleaning out tankers, making product. Nice thing about that, it not only builds respect with all the employees, but now nobody can BS me about their job. You know, I know exactly what's going on, how it all runs. So that makes it nice.
When we look at it, right, Premier Concrete Admixtures is admixture company, right? You guys mainly specialize in like ready mix plants, correct?
Yeah, ready mix, precast, and paving. So anybody that produces bulk concrete, and then we do some specialty customers like you guys.
So we had issue with like not being able to have. We really wanted 2 products for simplicity reasons: simplicity to scale, complexity to fail, right? So we went to Chris. You know, approached him. He got us a product that worked out, you know, extremely well. So we're kind of like a small little niche in what he does. But again, your dad started the company, right?
Yeah. So he was with an admixture company starting in the late 80s, built that up. He was the 5th employee there, built that up. It got pretty big. They got bought out. And when it was a smaller company, you know, their company stance was, hey, it's customer first. We're going to do everything in our power to help those guys out, build what they need, give them the infrastructure they need. They got bought out, and it's funny the way he tells it. You know, small guys, they build a successful business, they get bought out, and he's like, these corporate guys showed up and looked us in the eyes and said, hey, you've done a fantastic job so far, but you're doing it wrong. We're going to do it this way. And he just couldn't stomach that, so he ended up leaving and starting his own, and now we're here, and we still have that mindset.
What's the process like for you? I know you said only 6 months ago is like really when you feel like you know started in the role of what you're in. Like, is there that point in time where it's, hey, we're gonna keep this, we're gonna fix this, and we're gonna toss this?
Yeah, so it's been interesting through my growth process. You know, I got a bachelor's degree from Hillsdale College, and then I got an MBA from University of Toledo. So and all of that is tailored towards like bigger businesses, corporate, whatnot. I caught myself raising my hand a lot saying, hey, that's not really how that goes with smaller businesses because I knew it intimately. But through my growth process, I have seen, you know, there will be a certain situation where I look at it and I'm like, okay, now I understand why big businesses do it a certain way. And, you know, it gives me a crossroads a lot of times. It's like, okay, as much as I want to handle it like a big business and make it easy, it's like, okay, no, I got to go the harder route and kind of treat people differently, treat situations differently. You know, not saying that I'm not going to change anything, but I just take it one situation at a time.
Yeah. When did you officially start in the business? How young were you?
I was working summers when I got done with high school, going through my bachelor's degree. Graduated in 2019, then started full-time going through my MBA, so 2020-ish. but I've been running around that place since I was 9.
And what taught you more, college or Premier Concrete?
Work. Yeah, my MBA, I tell people I paid $30,000 for a piece of paper.
So you don't need college.
No. I look back and it was good for me just because I graduated with my bachelor's degree in 3 years. I was not ready. I was not mature enough to take the steps that I needed to. So really going through my MBA while working full time was just kind of like a fast track to not only maturing but learning what I needed to.
Yeah, which I feel like is typically a lot of the time, or a lot of why people, or I recommend college. I didn't really feel like I got much out of it, but definitely the maturity is a big part of it. I feel like I wasn't ready for it when I came out.
Yep.
What do you bring different to the table? I mean, now that you're kind of running the ship, like, what do you want to see happen?
More growth. I've always had the mindset, and this is just how our company's run, but I think of it as if we're not growing, we're dying. There's no such thing as stagnant. If you're not increasing, you're decreasing. Because if you're not being aggressive, somebody's going to take what you have. So in our business, we don't flip customers very often. It's about most people, they're with their current admixture supplier for 20 years. That's the average before you can get somebody flipped. So it's a lot of work, but you got to keep at it. And inevitably, our competitors are going to take people from us. So if we're not adding anything and they take from us, obviously we're decreasing. 2 years ago, we opened our second production facility in Iowa. So we got that running for 2 years now. And now that we have the process and the footprint for doing that, we're looking at third and fourth locations around the country. Because right now we're just in the Midwest, about 8 or 10 states.
Where do you think that mindset stems from? Like, wanting to, grow? Like, did you feel like you kind of got that in college, or working in the business, like kind of having your own dreams for it?
No, I think at the base of it, it's just competitive nature.
Yeah.
So I played sports all the way coming up, messing around with my buddies. Everything's a competition, which nowadays might be looked at as a downside, but I think of it as a huge upside.
Yeah.
Everything's a competition. But no, it's just the amount of pride I have that we have, the size of family business that we have, that's what drives most of it. It's like, hey, how big can we get this thing, and how much respect can we command in a market that's dominated by international companies?
Yeah.
I just love being a thorn in their side. Like, you're so big, but you're paying enough attention to me. That makes me feel good.
What, because ultimately, like, why I felt like I wanted to have you on the podcast was because we had a dinner a couple nights ago, and you talked about potentially like starting something alongside of what you're already doing, kind of as a side hustle, and continue trying to grow that as well. Like, do you feel like this was an inherited success, or do you feel like it was kind of a heavy burden, or where did you kind of juggle that?
Yeah, so obviously it is inherited. I think I'd be naive to say I'm not. Not everybody is in the position that I am, but it hasn't been easy either. But I wouldn't call it a burden. I like to look at it as a responsibility, and not that makes it any easier. We have around 45 employees, and when you get down to it, I have 45 families that rely on the success of this company. It's not just the guys that work for us. It's their wives, their kids. We've moved some people across the country. They uprooted, moved. That's quite a bit of weight, but I like to look at it as a responsibility. I have a duty to those guys to keep things running.
Yeah, they talk about the founder. They call it the founder identity crisis, right? And they say when you, especially I think when you have a family business, right? And my parents have a family business, and I kind of felt like this in a little bit of a different way, but it's like that family business can either be a launching pad or it can be a leash. Mm-hmm. And, I feel like most times it's because you're either, you want to scale yourself, right? Like that's the ultimate goal, is for you to get better, me to get better, Tim to get better, like individually, right? And when you step inside a family business, it's almost like, initially, you're trying to be better, and for me, it was me try to be better than my mentor. You probably tried to be better than your dad, but it's like you're trying to scale past him, where really you should just be trying to scale yourself. Mm-hmm. Right? So where did you ever feel like that, or have that moment where you're like, I need to work on myself, not just work on being better than my dad?
Yeah. And the biggest it's kind of interesting because in this situation, I still compare myself to my dad, but just with as much experience as he has dealing with people, not only customers, but employees, we'll have an internal employee situation where, I'm working on 6 months of experience. I really have no idea how to handle it. And I'm just, my dad will step into those situations and 10 minutes later it's handled and everybody's happy. So that is the biggest thing that I need to do probably over the next 6 months is try to learn as much as that as possible without having 30 years of experience doing it. Because, we had a rash. It was probably about 4 months. We had quite a few people internally upset and whatnot and just working through that. And I told myself, hey, that's got to change. You got to get better at this. Because I would much rather deal with disgruntled customers than I would employees.
Yeah.
So
They say the more you find out, the more you realize you don't know.
yeah, for sure.
That's why, again, just tying back to the experience of like being actually in the workforce, like I'm sure that's taught you a lot.
Yeah.
How have you been, working a lot with your dad on kind of still to this day, like kind of?
Yeah. Oh yeah. All the big stuff, I go to him. If I really can't figure something out, I go to him. It's funny because when I was working in the office full time and he was still in the office full time, we absolutely hated it. If that had continued for an extended period of time, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, just because we're, too much the same and we were butting heads constantly. But I went out into the field. He stayed in the office. And then when I got back in the office, he ended up working from home. So it's been a good symbiotic relationship. And he's good about, some people might call it freedom, but he just looks at me and says, "Oh, you got to handle it now. Just figure it out."
What's the hardest conversation you've ever had to have with him?
Oh, probably, just talking about the future of the company. There's some tough decisions to be made. People constantly ask us, hey, you've gotten big enough now. Somebody's going to buy you. Somebody's going to buy you. Somebody's going to buy you. So we talk about that stuff, and it's like, no, we don't want to do that. But then that leads into so many issues that we're going to face in the next 5 or 6 years. I actually just had to this wasn't a tough conversation because it was the easiest decision I had to make. But last Friday, I ended up having to fire my first person. But there was nothing I can do about it. Other than that, nothing really too tough. I mean, he's my dad, so I just toss shit out there and deal with it.
See where it rolls.
Yeah.
When you started working, because you said it was 9 years old that you've been kind of in the company, like, did you have the plan, or was the goal to kind of take over the horse, or what?
Yes and no, but so I have two older sisters and a younger brother, and my dad's been very good about, he's like, hey, you guys can do whatever you want. You can use this to your advantage. You don't have to do anything with it. Mm-hmm. So we all worked for the company at some point. My sisters didn't end up doing anything with it. And working through college, I was like, no, this is the only thing I'm doing. It was pretty clear to me. And we'll see what my brother does. He's still in college, so he's got that decision to make.
I got a big one for you because I feel like I went through this, pretty dramatically. I was young when I came out here to start Polypro. I was only 21, and I was kind of same position. I was having sit-down conversations with, some people that were 40 years old, having to terminate them, hire them, recruit them, etc. They talk about legacy being a finish line, sometimes that someone else drew for you, and kind of working with that. Where did you, at what point in time were you like, hey, I'm done earning this role, like I'm gonna fucking own this role now? Have you feel like you've made it there yet, or are you still kind of in that phase of like earning the role?
Yeah, it's been pretty recent. Probably the last month or so, I've hit that where it's like, I've done enough now. I don't have to go to dad. This is what we're doing, and we're just gonna run with it. And that, 6 months isn't a long time, but I've built up quite a bit of experience in that 6 months. And, I've come to learn that there's almost no situation that you can put yourself in that you can't dig yourself out of if you work hard enough. Which comes to that, phrase, one of the good sayings we toss around all the time, which my dad learned from his first boss, was the greater the adversity, the greater the opportunity. I don't care what you're staring down, there is some way to turn that into your advantage. I don't care if it's customers, employees. Oh, I'm growing too fast. I bit off more than I can chew. Well, guess what? Sit there and chew.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out.
Speed kills every time. Like, that's what I always tell him. Messy action. You know, the more times you fail, like, you're just ready to get back into the opportunity and figure out what works.
Yeah. So the other thing we say, and you know, my dad learned this from his first boss too, is, hey, you want to be a speedboat, not a freighter. And that's how we compare ourselves to our competitors. You know, we react fast. We don't have this huge long chain of command. You know, if customers have a severe issue, they all have my phone number. They can come straight to the top and it's going to get handled.
Yeah.
They're not going through 6, 7 different people, you know, just like with you guys or, you know, other customers. We've built products specifically for somebody, specifically for one situation, and we can do that quickly.
Yeah.
So huge competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Parker mentioned that you were thinking about starting something else. Is that the case?
Yeah, I'm in the process. It's been a little dicey just because with my position at Premier, baby on the way, I've had some house issues recently, so it's been full.
Yeah.
But I'd like to. You know, my dad did it twice, so we have 2 other companies that are kind of built into Premier, and it's been nice. So I have something kind of like that I'm thinking about. But it's just, you know, whether or not I have the time and energy to do it.
What makes you want to pursue something else?
It's not so much that I'm not happy with Premier. I don't think Premier will be fulfilling. You know, I truly believe in that. I've just always looked at the most successful products or most successful companies that you see start up and that like it's like a flash burn. All of a sudden they're there, and it's when you boil it down, it's they found something that is either hard to do or people don't want to do, and they found an efficient way to do it. And so I was in an association event, and I sat down with a company that has something like that, and there's really nowhere in the country that does it. So I see a pretty good opportunity there. And honestly, part of it was, you know, so my mom did this when my dad started the company. She was a stay-at-home mom, but she slowly got built into Premier, and now she's our office manager. So it's like, okay, if I can start something up to where my wife can work from home while being a stay-at-home mom, if she wanted to do that and get us some income, you know, just a little safety net, and maybe something for my kids to do.
Isn't it ironic how that works? It's like you start something and then like you're such a, you know, it's good and bad, right? I'm such a firm believer in AE that like I try to recruit everyone, but then it's like I look around, I'm like, holy shit, my family, my dad, my sister, my grandma, my brother, JP, your dad, or your mom and your sister. And it's like, holy shit, we have three generations of families in here. I'm like, we should stop recruiting. We should recruit other people too. But it's just like funny how it just like naturally like aligns like that.
Yeah, and it's interesting to bring that up because in the last few months, we've had it brought up internally quite a bit that we should stop doing that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of friends. We don't have that many family members, but we got quite a few friends and close acquaintances that we hired, and some people look at that as a disadvantage. But, yeah, we've had some hiccups, but it has worked way more often than it doesn't.
That's what I've felt like too. You always run the risk, but like what I tell everyone is like if you truly believe in like you should never, and whether you're family or not, like you should never put them in an opportunity that you don't truly feel like is beneficial to both parties. Otherwise, it's just like that's not a good relationship. But like if you truly believe in like what you're offering and what you're doing and the opportunity ahead of them, like, you know, I don't see it as a disadvantage by any means.
And you have to believe in the person.
Yeah.
You know them intimately, so hopefully you understand what they can handle. But I'll reiterate something my dad told me a long, long time ago. Never hire somebody you're not going to be able to fire.
Yep.
So if you're not going to be able to fire your wife, don't hire her. Or your best friend or whoever it might be.
One thing Parker always teaches me a lot is like it does come down to the people. Like if you have a good people, you have good process, you have a good business. Did you have a relationship with the guys before you kind of took over, as VP?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so whether it's company fishing trips or, going hunting with the guys, I know each one of them, their family members, kids, where they go to school, where they live, whole 9 yards. And I'm not in the office very often. I'm interacting with these guys face to face on a regular basis. So it's really easy to build that relationship and keep it going.
Do you think that's kind of what helped gain the respect as well? Because I mean, it's
definitely
it's a big, like, obviously people like to feel like people, but having the guy that, not necessarily, like you said, they're 40 years old, they've been in it a while, and then you come in and kind of take over, like having, instead of it being like, oh, there's the boss guy with the Rolex on, like it's
not a Rolex.
It's not. I was looking at it the whole time.
You should get better with your watches, JP, before you call people out.
But, like, it's a good feeling knowing that, like, I feel like the best way to earn respect is to make them feel like equals.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I found.
Yeah, and I was talking to Parker on the way in, and I'm going to do something like that when we get done with this. I mean, 2 doors down, I got our dispenser techs installing a ready mix plant, literally within walking distance. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to help pull hose. I'll get dirty. I got no problem.
Yeah.
I'll be the first one to help my guys dig out of trouble. I got no issue with that.
You think that's what people kind of get twisted when it comes to, like, owning a business? Like, I mean, ultimately, Parker talks a lot about, like, buying back his time and, like, being not in the business but working on it. Do you still feel like it is valuable to, like, get fucking dirty? And
Oh yeah, at least for us, I don't care if it's a sales guy dealing with customers or me dealing with my employees, face to face and actually doing productive work. It's huge. Our industry cannot be. It's not over the phone. The most times we grab customers from our competitors, it's because, hey, I haven't seen my sales guy in 3 months. He doesn't return my phone calls. So it could be that easy. Hey, I'm showing up every 2 weeks, doing something productive. I'm not just showing up with a box of donuts and saying, hey, thanks for your business, bye.
yeah,
We're integrated in their business, and I'm integrated with my employees.
what do you want? What are your goals with this company you're thinking about starting?
Oh, with that, the potential is huge if I can do it correctly. But, top end goal, franchise it out and get it across the country. If I can, get the franchise model down and get a contract with the manufacturer of the products we'd be using so that we'd be the only service provider, that'd be huge.
Monopoly.
Kind of.
The whole thing.
I got one last question, JP, unless you got something else for him.
No, ask it, because I'm going to think of something.
If somebody, because again, it sounds like obviously where you're at has worked out for you quite well in terms of, inheriting more of the success than, a heavy burden. What would you say to somebody who does feel suffocated by an opportunity that may be similar to yours, but took it as more of a heavy burden than the inherited success?
Yeah, you got to follow your heart and your stomach. I mean, if you're not comfortable and you don't think you can do it, the longer you're there, the worse it's going to get, and the more people you're going to end up hurting. Because like I said, 45 families, rely on this business. And it's like, if I wasn't all in and I was doing it half-ass, they would get hurt inevitably along the way. So, and I think, if it's your dad, your mom, your grandpa, whoever's running the business that you could inherit, hopefully you can have an honest conversation with them. And whether it's, hey, I think I'm done, I need to find something else, or, hey, can you give me 2 years? I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to learn more. And then maybe I'll come back. I think you just need to have that honest conversation. But you really need to be fully bought in. There have been a lot of situations I've been in where it's, I've thought back on them and it's like, not everybody would have withstood that. I mean, it's a lot. Can be a lot. So you really just got to go all or nothing.
JP, one last one, close us out.
I guess my biggest thing is, like, what, in your experience, like, what's the difference between success and fulfillment?
I think they're intertwined, but I don't think they're the same.
Mm-hmm.
We've grown 14 to 20% every year for 19 years. So we really haven't seen anything but success. But you really just got to enjoy what you're doing. And if you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
It would be hard to find somebody that's not happy with what they're doing and they suck at it.
Yeah.
If you get my meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that's the biggest thing.
I think, like, wrapping this all up, because I think it's started in the intro from the moment you texted me. We've had conversations throughout, and kind of exactly what just went on there. Like, success, a lot of the times people get it, twisted with adversity is really an opportunity, right? And a lot of the times, that heavy burden that people might be feeling is really just adversity. Like, it's not, and again, you're sitting here and you're like, hey, 15 to 20% year over year, we've had a lot of success. Like, it wasn't success all the way along the way. Like, you've had to deal with a lot of tough conversations. You've had to deal with shit breaking down. You've had to deal with, customers leaving, getting more customers, probably months that weren't good. Like, all of that, like, was not success.
Right.
But it's not about one moment in time, like, because that's adversity. You're going to have a bunch of adversity throughout the entire year, but if you can, control that and just continue moving forward, like, that's when you're going to see 15 to 20%, growth year over year.
Yeah.
Success long term.
This year was a perfect example of that. 2025, the first quarter of the year, we were down like 30% from last year. And then we racked off 5 record months in a row, probably going to be 6 now. And now we're up 16% over last year through 10 months, almost 11. So it can happen that fast. And, if people want to take 2 things away from this, the first is the greater the adversity, the greater opportunity. And the second thing that I try to rely on, worrying just makes it hurt twice. And I think I heard that from a comedian, I think. But, if you sit there and worry about something that might happen, you're going to hurt then, and you're going to hurt when it happens.
Yeah.
If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So you might as well just not worry about it. Do what you can to, build up, and then take it as it comes.
Well, we appreciate having you on, man. I think this was, I got a lot of good info. That's why I love doing these, because I feel like I learned a ton. I'm sure you feel the same. So if anybody, I'm sure there's other curbers out there too. Hit up Chris, guys. Premier Concrete Admixtures. He'll hook you up. He'll get you some of the AE butter that we've private labeled. I just want my kickback, Chris.
Yeah, we can do that. Thanks, Parker.
Maybe then you can get a Rolex.
Maybe.